Welcome back. Let's talk. Last week, we understood a little more about emotions and saw why we react the way we do. Now, is it possible to not get overwhelmed by such emotions, especially anger, and deal with situations in a much calmer way? Yes, it's quite possible and we can do it. It needs a little bit of understanding, awareness, and a lot of practice. And the process is called emotion regulation. Let's see what emotion regulation is all about. With respect to handling emotions, we have heard a lot of people give advice like you have to control your emotions, just learn to control them, it will go away, right? This is actually suppression of emotions, which is not good for our mental well being. Just imagine a cooker building up pressure, and instead of the usual vent cover that releases pressure periodically, we just seal it off completely. Sounds dangerous, right? Or just look at emotions like a flood of water gushing through a pipe. Suppose you block all outlets. Will the flood just recede and go away, disappear? No, right? Sooner or later, it will just burst out somewhere. So, controlling or suppressing emotions is not going to help us in the long run. And there are still others who would distract themselves completely when emotions overwhelm them. They would go to temples or listen to music or concentrate on something else and distract themselves. This would help, but temporarily. It's a temporary coping mechanism. When similar situations keep happening, whatever we manage to distract would come back with much greater intensity. And some people may even take to binge eating or smoking or alcohol that are not only unhelpful but create more problems for the person's physical health also. Therefore, if we are to equip ourselves to face the varied, unpleasant situations of life without getting overwhelmed and giving in to outbursts, it's better to learn about emotion regulation. So, what is emotion regulation? Suppose a situation is unfolding before us. Even as it is happening, there arises in us certain automatic reactions. This is what we discussed last week. These automatic reactions are also called spontaneous reactions. That is, we are on autopilot when we react. Emotion regulation is to postpone these automatic or spontaneous reactions. For this, we need to first observe what our automatic reactions are when we are faced with a situation. So what are we doing here? We are basically making ourselves a little more flexible in expressing our spontaneous reactions. As I said, the first step here is to become aware. Awareness of what is happening in me right now. What am I feeling? But most of the times, we just know that we are upset, that something is overwhelming us. We do not know if we are angry or sad or just irritated or frustrated or hurt. Before we realize what is happening in us, before we become aware of the feelings that have arisen in us, we express the automatic reactions. And mostly, this is in the form of angry words or angry actions, facial expressions or gestures. So sometimes even fear gets expressed as anger, angry words. So a very useful tool to identify the feelings that we have is our own body. Our body is the biggest source of information for the emotions we are having. For example, let's say I'm angry. What are the changes in my body that happens? I may feel a pounding sensation in my heart or head. I may feel blood rushing up. I'll be breathing much faster than usual. I'll have an urge to do something. My hands and feet will be so restless that I may be actually doing random, meaningless things. And a sense of lot of energy flowing. There will also be racing thoughts in my mind. All these are indicators that I am feeling anger. Next, let's take fear. What are the symptoms? I may feel a tightness in the chest. I may sweat profusely all of a sudden. I may feel my abdomen churning or aching. Sometimes dizziness can also be there. If we take sadness, we may feel a pit in the stomach, a sinking sensation in the abdomen or chest, or something blocking the throat. Hands and feet will feel very weak, as though they cannot support our body weight. We may find it difficult to move, as though all energy has been sapped out of us, and there's no urge to do anything. It's just the opposite of anger. Coming to the feeling of shame, that can result in a very uncomfortable sensation in the pit of our stomach, a kind of feeling of not feeling safe anywhere, and as though our body is really shrunk in size. So, the first step is to identify the feeling we are having with the help of the clues that our body gives us. Now, you may ask, and very rightly so, hey, look, when I'm angry or scared or hurt, I just know that I'm just angry. I'm just angry or scared. How can I be observing all this at that moment? Is that practical? It's a very valid question. All of us have heard our parents, grandparents, or elders advise us, when you're upset, just go drink a glass of water, or remove yourself from that place, or count from 10 to 1, right? Heard them? There's a lot of sense in that, because in that time, we remove ourselves from that place, or drink a glass of water, or count from 10 to 1. We are with ourselves. And that's the time we need to observe our bodies. And with those clues that our body gives us, we become aware of the feeling that we are experiencing. But this needs practice, right? Initially, we may not even remember to think about observing us till after 2 or 3 days after the outburst, when we would have already reacted on autopilot. Doesn't matter. Continue the practice. After some days, you may think about observing, you may recall about observing what's happening in you just after the event. Okay, again, continue. With more practice, we may be able to identify what's happening in us during the event. That is, what's happening in us even when the situation is unfolding. How would this awareness help us? A very big truth is that the moment even this awareness happens, say I'm aware, I know that I'm actually feeling angry right now, or I'm feeling sad or hurt right now. That helps me to take hold of myself. That helps me become calmer, helps me slow down, help me pause, and not to give in that automatic reaction. So, experience and see if it makes sense to you. Let's meet again next week on more about this.